In the 1960s, the mad lad known as Walt Disney had an idea to create his own city. That's right. This place Walt envisioned in his mind would be referred to as the experimental prototype community of tomorrow, EPCOT. It would be home to 20,000 people, and basically its purpose would be to continue to push innovation in technology, and no matter what, never ever be completed. Sadly, Walt was never able to complete, let alone start this incredibly ambitious project. It was supposed to be granted the funding for it if his company constructed and opened Magic Kingdom first, which Walt didn't even see that project completed as he passed away 5 years before it was even finished. So the Epcot project was laid to rest. Now fast forward to the mid-1970s with Magic Kingdom completed and opened and Walt Disney World doing booming business. And the idea to open a second gate on the Walt Disney World property was greenlit, and it was to be named Epcot. Now apparently the Disney Imagineers were split on what the new park would become. Some wanted it to be as close to Walt's vision as possible and make the park all about innovation and technology, while some wanted it to be more of a permanent World's Fair showcasing different countries and their cultures from all across the globe. Now as the story goes, one of the early models of the tech park was put side by side with one of the early models of the World's Fair park, and bam! The idea was agreed upon to combine both ideas and just make one huge park. After a 3-year construction phase and around $1 billion later, Epcot Center opened to the general public on October 1st, 1982. And the front half of the park was known as Future World, showcasing human innovations and technological advancements. Some of the opening day attractions included Spaceship Earth, a 15-minute dark ride demonstrating all the advancements in human communication over time. The ride itself is actually housed inside the geodesic sphere, which has been the icon of Epcot since its opening day. Living with the Land, another dark ride, but it's basically a giant greenhouse tour. Very cool though. World of Motion, giving guests a look at the history of transportation. Universe of Energy, exploring what else? Energy. This thing was 45 minutes long and took guests through a number of animatronic scenes and 4 different film sections. And right in the middle of Future World was Communicore, kind of a dash of all of the attractions all mixed into one, lightly complementing everything Future World had to offer. And then the back half of the park was that permanent World's Fair known as the World Showcase. And the countries represented when the park opened was Mexico, featuring the dark ride El Rio del Tiempo, China, Germany, Italy, the American Adventure featuring a 30-minute animatronic marathon, Japan, France, the UK, and Canada. And the park always closed its evenings with a nighttime show, right smack dab in the middle of World Showcase Lagoon. And the first show to take place was Carnival de Lumière, Carnival of Light. So with all that going on, plus a 5-mile addition of the infamous Disney World monorail essentially connecting Magic Kingdom and Epcot, how could you go wrong? And the park was an instant success. The following year, 1983, marked Phase 2 of the grand opening of Epcot. And we got multiple new attractions, such as Horizons, a dark ride featuring a number of animatronics, with its main focus being what technology might bring to the table in the future. Journey into Imagination, featuring the Dream Finder and Figment, with its main message being if you can imagine it, you can create it. Magic Journeys, a 3D film showcasing what life may look like through the eyes of a child. And a new nighttime show called New World Fantasy. 1984 saw the World Showcase get an addition, with a brand new country represented, in Norway. And for the 3rd straight year, a new nighttime show. I don't know if this was the idea to just change it every year at the time, or if they were trying to find the right secret sauce, but this one was called Laserphonic Fantasy. 2 years later, in 1986, we got the addition of a brand new pavilion in Future World, called Living Seas, which essentially is a giant indoor aquarium. And when it opened, was the largest saltwater tank in the world. Also that year marked the end of the Magic Journeys film, but it was replaced by something pretty cool. Captain EO, a 3D sci-fi film starring Michael Jackson, written by George Lucas and directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Oh my. In 1988, we saw 2 additions to the World Showcase. We saw another brand new country added in Morocco, and we saw an indoor dark ride added to the Norway Pavilion in Maelstrom. And also a new nighttime show, but this one was the winner. And it was the grand debut of the infamous Illuminations. In 1989, we got the addition of a new pavilion up in Future World, and we're talking about the Wonders of Life Pavilion, featuring the 3D motion simulator Body Wars, which shrinks you down to the size of a cell and races you through the human body. Fun fact, the exact same ride system for this attraction was also used on another Disney attraction, Star Tours. Now sadly, this marked kind of an end of an era for the original Epcot Center, as nothing really happened for a 5-year period until 1994. It was decided that Epcot was growing stale rather quickly, so the decision was made to pump some new life into the park. And that started with the removal of the Captain EO film, and it was replaced by Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, also a 3D film cashing in on the highly successful Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise. Also, we saw the closure of the Communicore building, but it was replaced with Innoventions, which was kind of the same thing. 1994 was also the debut year of the Flower and Garden Festival, the first festival in Epcot's history, which they've kind of gone on to become famous for because they have a quadrillion of them now, but they're all pretty cool. But most importantly, during that big revamp year of 1994, the park was renamed, as Center was dropped, and the park moving forward would be referred to as Epcot. 1995, we had the addition of the Food and Wine Festival, another yearly event that's still going strong today. In 1996, we got an updated version of the Universe of Energy, and this time with Ellen DeGeneres, yay! And it was now called Ellen's Energy Adventure. That lady always has given me the creeps. Also that year was the closure of World of Motion. 2 years later, in 1998, it was announced, hey, you know that attraction y'all love so much, Journey into Imagination? We're gonna close it all up, and reopen it next year. And that's precisely what they did. In the following year, we got a revamped version of the attraction, Journey into Your Imagination. This version of the ride, Dreamfinder's gone, Figment is there, but very minimal, and it was just a lame-ass version of the ride. I don't know what they were thinking. Also that year, we got the closure of Horizons, and that building was just completely demolished. Also that year, we got the replacement for the World of Motion building, and it was Test Track. Part dark ride, part high-speed thrill ride, with its theming emphasis being on more of the car, not necessarily all of transportation like World of Motion was about. Nonetheless, great ride, one of my favorites at Walt Disney World. And finally, at the end of the year, we got an updated version of Illuminations. This version called Illuminations Reflection of Earth, and this show stuck around longer out of all the nighttime shows in Epcot's history. In 2001, just 2 years after its opening, the fan backlash was so intense, Journey into Your Imagination closed. And it was quickly announced the following year that they would indeed be fine-tuning the attraction, bringing back Figment with a more emphasized role, and the ride renamed Journey into Imagination with Figment. 2003, we saw what happened to the plot of land that Horizons used to stand on, and we got the debut of Mission Space, a motion simulator replicating what it would be like to take off and return to planet Earth via space shuttle. 2004 saw the addition of Turtle Talk with Crush, featuring Crush from the Finding Nemo series. A little precursor of what was to come to the Living Seas. But anyway, an interactive screen experience basically geared towards children, very similar to Monsters Laugh Floor over at Magic Kingdom. 2005 saw the park receive my personal all-time favorite attraction. And we're talking Soarin'. It was an exact replica of the one at Disney's California Adventure known as Soarin' over California. An absolutely beautiful attraction simulating hang gliding. Is a life-changing experience if you've never been on it. And at the end of 2005, it was indeed announced that the Living Seas Pavilion would close and go over a huge refurbishment. And it reopened 2 years later in 2007 as The Seas with Nemo and Friends. Heavily geared towards the Finding Nemo series, one of the more disappointing things Epcot has ever done, in my opinion. Also that year, we saw the dark ride in the Mexico Pavilion called El Rio del Tiempo get rethemed after the Three Caballeros and reopened as the Grand Fiesta Tour. And finally in that year, the Wonders of Life Pavilion closed up shop for good. 3 years later in 2010, we saw the removal of the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience video package, and we saw Captain EO reinstated to celebrate the life of Michael Jackson, who had passed away a year earlier. And then in the early 2010s, nothing really happened, and the park was very quiet for 4 years until it was announced in 2014 that amazing attraction everyone loved back in Norway known as Maelstrom would be removed. The following year in 2015, we saw Captain EO removed, this time for good, and a new video package was unveiled and is still open today as the Disney Pixar Short Film Festival. 2016 saw Soarin' over California get a new video package also. This one called Soarin' Around the World. I actually prefer this one more than the original. Gosh, I love that ride so much. And also that year, the Maelstrom replacement opened, and it was some intellectual property known as Frozen Ever After. Now hey, don't get me wrong, it's a decent ride, it's a fun dark ride. It's no Maelstrom though. 2017 saw the closure of Ellen's Energy Adventure, what a bummer. And we also got the debut of a new festival. The Festival of the Arts. Over the course of the next 4 years, the park would go over its largest transformation in history, almost entirely on the front half of the park in Future World. And after the park closed up shop along with all of Walt Disney World, along with pretty much the whole world, in 2020 because of the old CVIDs. So instead of Future World East, Future World West, and the World Showcase, the entire park was now divided up into 4 neighborhoods, with World Showcase keeping its name, and Future World being divided up into 3 separate neighborhoods: World Celebration, World Discovery, and World Nature. Also that year, way back in the France Pavilion, we got the debut of Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, a trackless dark ride which is just absolutely a blast. I've yet to go on a trackless dark ride that hasn't kicked. And also that year, we got a new nighttime show to some chagrin, Harmonious. In 2022, the park unveiled its very first roller coaster, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. An indoor, spinning, dark ride roller coaster, kinda hybrid, manufactured by my guys at Vekoma. This ride is reutilizing the former building of Ellen's Energy Adventure. And in 2023, the park will unveil Journey of Water, an interactive walkthrough attraction themed after the Disney hit film Moana. Epcot is my all-time favorite theme park. If I could only go to one more theme park for one more day, the rest of my life, I would choose a full day at Walt Disney World's Epcot. As I mentioned in one of my past videos, that to me the most important thing a theme park can bring is to transport you out of this world and into another. And there are a lot of parks out there that do just that very thing. Silver Dollar City comes to mind. It doesn't matter where you're at whilst in Epcot, you are transported to a different place. I love theme parks so much, they're a huge part of my life, but there's an odd emotion, almost this beautiful, warm, glowing bubble just filled with emotion that I get when I walk into Epcot. No park has ever brought that to me, and that's why Epcot is my #1 ranked theme park.